Julius Malema is a South African politician. He is the founder and the leader of EFF, the Economic Freedom Fighters. His politics are focused on the land and the wealth of South Africa. Yesterday, 16th of April 2026, he was sentenced by Magistrate Toinette Olivier to 5 years in prison under the Firearms Control Act. Malema intends to appeal this sentence, but the conviction stands. This appeal is important, not because Malema is afraid of going to jail, but because in South Africa you can be disqualified from Parliament if you have a sentence that's over 12 months without the option of a fine. And I think that's the point. Firstly, let's address what he was actually charged for and who charged him. On the 28th of July 2018, EFF held a rally, during which Malema fired a rifle into the air. 28, 29, 30, 31, 1. On the 1st of August, AfReform made a public statement. They have laid charges against Malema at the Littleton police station. The police did not initiate this investigation. AfReform did it themselves. They wrote the charge sheet and then they handed it into a police station that is hundreds of kilometres away from where this incident had happened. The police processed the paperwork and then handed it up, and it disappeared into the NPA for over a year. NPA is National Prosecution Authority. During that time, NPA gave contradictory public statements. One spokesperson said a decision had been taken not to prosecute, and another spokesperson said that no decision had been taken at all. Those statements were made on the same day. When AfReform caught wind that the NPA might not prosecute or were sitting on the file, they threatened a mandamus. A mandamus is a court order that compels a public body to perform a legal duty that it has failed to perform. The NPA had a legal obligation to make a decision on prosecution, yes or no. You can't just sit on it. And in July 2019, AfReform announced publicly that it would go to court and force the NPA to make a decision. In that same announcement, AfReform stated that if the NPA decided not to prosecute, it would apply for a nulle prosequi. Nulle prosequi is Latin, and behind me you can see how it got to South Africa from Rome. Hello darkness, my old friend. A nulle prosequi certificate in South African law lets a private person prosecute a case if the state declines to prosecute. By October 2019, AfReform had formally served the mandamus on the NPA and the Minister for Justice. It also put out another public statement saying that it had successfully pressured the NPA into prosecuting Malema. Just to be explicitly clear, nobody was injured at this rally. Shots were fired into the sky. I'm also not condoning gun violence or gun ownership or shooting rifles into the sky. You could hit a bird for fuck's sake. But whose job is it to prosecute? If the NPA had received the police report and investigated themselves and come to a conclusion, I would not be reporting on this story. But AfReform are not the police. They are his political rival. They are an Afrikaner lobby group. They don't care if he shoots a bird. They are excited they finally found an excuse to go after their political enemy. And they lobbied and pressured and threatened South Africa's actual police force until they got what they wanted. AfReform was founded in 2006 by members of Solidarity, the Afrikaner trade union. They described themselves as a civil rights organisation. But Solidarity started in 1902 as a white miners' union. They spent most of the 20th century backing apartheid. Solidarity is not just a union and a lobby group. They have built what they call the Solidarity movement. They have built a family of interlocking institutions across South Africa. This includes Afrikaans schools and colleges, a cultural federation, a media house, a film company, a legal fund, property companies and financial services. They say that they represent 2 million people. They say that they defend minority rights, community safety and Afrikaans culture. But what they do and what they say are not the same. What they actually do is spend a lot of money fighting against land redistribution and place name changes. They also produce a lot of very smart-sounding propaganda that warns that prosecuting apartheid crimes would cause polarisation, as if South Africa is not already polarised. Now the money. They insist that they are funded exclusively by their members. They boast membership over 300,000, paying 30 rand a month. But they don't just stop with local money. They also run Friends of AfReform. This is a dedicated donation channel for international supporters. We don't know who those international supporters are or why they might be supporting AfReform specifically. They don't publish that. But their international political operation also appears on records as recurring travel and lobby efforts. This is Martin Cali Creel, and he is the CEO of AfriForum. This is Ernst Roots, and he is the Deputy CEO of AfriForum. In 2018, they flew to Washington with the stated purpose of warning US investors against land grabs. So, saying the quiet part out loud here, who are the investors? Who are the American investors in South Africa that need to be warned against land expropriation? While in Washington, these men got personal time with the United States National Security Advisor. Why? They also met Ted Cruz, and they went on Fox News and called for American support against brutal farm murderers. But most troublingly, they visited the Cato Institute. The Cato Institute was set up by Charles Koch, the oil billionaire, one of the richest men in America, arguably the most destructive human being who has ever lived. Cato's core argument, which it dresses up very well in academic language, is that private property is sacred. This think tank has been at the heart of a decades-long project to make corporate property rights untouchable. This is the network that has spent the last 40 years funding climate denial and arguing that private profiteering should never be disturbed for the public good. They believe that even if your fortune came from extraction, from colonialism, from addiction economics, or from government contracts, that your right to own that resource is permanent and indefinite and unchallengeable. And any attempt to nationalise, to socialise, to redistribute, or to tax is seen by them as theft of their private property that they earned by inheriting it. They believe whoever holds the deed holds the deed. Don't ask about the history of how I got the deed. This is mine. I am entitled to be worth hundreds of billions of dollars and never give anything back. That's who AfriForum went to warn of land grabs. Let's talk about those land grabs. This is the land audit report done by the South African government. White South Africans make up 7% of the population, but they own 72% of the farm and agricultural holdings. And individual males own 72%, while females only own 13%. So if you're a black woman in South Africa, this system is not for you. But these guys are oppressed. When they go on Fox News to generate fear across the diaspora, that is not the violent dispossession that they want you to think it is. This was signed into law in January 2025 after 5 years of public consultation and parliamentary deliberation. It is the product of the democratic process. It went through multiple drafts and it was badly needed. Until this was passed last year, South Africa was still using apartheid-era land laws. The legal framework that this replaced was written by the apartheid regime. This gives the South African government a framework to acquire land for public purposes. It requires the state to negotiate with landowners, provide a legitimate public purpose, and pay just and equitable compensation. It is also only applicable to very specific circumstances. Abandoned land, speculative land, land already paid for by the state. The courts decide case by case what compensation is owed to landowners. And as of yet, it has never been used. Not once. I'm running out of time. If you want access to the research materials that sits behind this video and the rest of the series, please make sure that you are in the Discord and that you have the South Africa tab